Good day to members of the media and the listening public. I am happy to share that Bermuda's economy continues to expand and demonstrate positive economic performance. During the second quarter of 2023, the Bermudan economy grew by an estimated 2.3% year-over-year after adjusting for inflation. Economic expansion was a direct result of increased household and government expenditure and business investment. GDP in current prices increased 3.9% during the second quarter. Additionally, the first quarter GDP estimates have been revised upwards from a 3.6% increase to a 4.6% increase. This signifies the strong half-year economic performance of Bermuda's economy. Consumer spending in the first quarter increased 3.6% year-over-year to $809.1 million. Consumption of services increased 5.1% year-over-year, reflected in higher expenditure for air transport, catering services, and personnel services. Spending on durable goods rose by 5.4%, due largely to increased expenditure on furniture, furnishings, and new motorcycles. Employment income in the second quarter was 3.9% above 2022 levels. Employment income in the following industries all increased in the second quarter of 2023. International business, hotel and restaurants, banking, insurance, and real estate, business services, wholesale and retail, public administration, construction, transport, and communications. The second quarter growth in employee remuneration in these sectors is positive, and the income levels are also outpacing pre-pandemic employment income levels. The island hosted 62,477 air visitors during the second quarter of 2023, up from 48,646 in the second quarter of 2022. Estimated expenditure by air visitors increased to $110.8 million from $97.8 million recorded in the same period of the previous year. Consumption by government increased 3.5% during the quarter, with higher expenditure on wages, salaries, and personnel training. Furthermore, gross capital formation, also known as business investment, grew 1% to $212.1 million during the quarter. Investment in machinery and equipment increased by 5.5% due to higher imports of special purpose motor vehicles, radio navigating aid apparatuses, and medical equipment. Investment related to construction fell 3.2%. Bermuda's trade balance rose by 0.1% to $442.7 million as a result of the growth in receipts of the export of goods and services outpacing the growth of payments for imports of goods and services. Exports of goods and services increased by 2.7% during the quarter, partly due to increased receipts related to travel services. Bermuda's business ecosystem remains robust, and total business registration increased year-over-year, bringing the complete business register to 16,226. There were 173 new businesses registered in Bermuda during the second quarter of 2023. The government continues to facilitate the expansion and sustainability of Bermuda's economy by creating a business environment that allows businesses to thrive. The government will continue to execute the strategic initiatives outlined in the Economic Development Strategy to ensure Bermuda experiences sustainable economic growth and development. For more information, I urge the public to review the Quarter 2 2023 quarterly gross domestic product by expenditure publication, which is available on the Department of Statistics website at gov.bm. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. At this time, we welcome questions from the media.
Throughout the other quarters of the year would mean that we would have positive economic growth for 2023.
Sure. Now, with that growth, we still hear concerns, complaints about the cost of living. Yes, jobs are increasing. Yes, salaries are increasing. But how would you marry the two in that, yes, we're having growth, but people are still, struggling?
Both can be a reality. And so our economy is improving, and our economy continues to improve. It gives us greater capacity to adjust some of the challenges that we'll have with the cost of living. And so the budget period that is coming up gives us an opportunity to look at the way in which we're taxing Bermudians to see if there are further adjustments can be made in our tax system to try to create a buffer for some of this high cost of living consideration that residents are having. I would say if you looked at the CPI data that our inflation rate is trending below 3% now. That's positive, and that means that inflation is slowing, and that's a positive sign of the economy as well.
Looking ahead to next year, with the Fairmont Southampton Princess due to break ground in the first quarter, do you see growth in the construction industry surpassing growth in other sectors potentially, or will this be fairly marginal?
Based on the work that has been submitted in planning and some of the projects that are slated to come online in 2024, we would see greater levels of activity. It is anticipated that there will be greater levels of activity in the construction industry.
Okay. By what stretch would you say?
Very difficult to estimate because you would have to determine work put in place during that particular quarter or that period of time in terms of what we're actually reporting. But it doesn't just have a direct economic benefit. It also has an indirect and induced economic benefit in terms of employing more people and then how those persons' salaries are able to be spent within our economy and the other supply chain impacts that a construction project actually has.
What would you say is your priority in terms of areas of growth that are needed right now in Bermuda?
Our priority will be those items that we set out in the economic development strategy. And so we will prioritize the strategic initiatives within the economic development strategy and set out a roadmap to what we seek to accomplish. We've identified the areas and sectors within the economy that we believe that if we focus on, can provide greater levels of economic growth and development. We have employment drivers, we have economic drivers, and then we have areas of opportunity which are identified in the strategy.
Okay. Do you see a renewable energy development as a key growth area, for the ministry?
It presents growth opportunity, is also a diversification area, and it is an area in which if we have more renewable energy, we're able to reduce the cost of electricity in Bermuda as well.
Okay, thank you. And if I may just touch on a throne speech initiative, the Bermuda Business Development Agency is going to pivot from a marketing agency into an investment and promotions agency. Is the BDA currently flexible to make that change, or will it need additional revenues or resources to make that transition?
They are going through a strategic planning process now to determine where they are, where they desire to be, and what is required from a resource standpoint to close those particular gaps. I would say that the transition is more of a reality, and they will work within the current scope of their budget allocation to ensure that they execute on the items that they seek to execute on based off the strategic plan.
Okay. And they're in favor of this change?
Most definitely. So the BDA has a board that is independent of government. And so the board would have informed us of their change in strategic direction. The government does not set the strategic direction for the BDA.
Okay. And I know my colleague's just coming right behind me, but one more question. We understand that it was raised in the Senate that the immigration hotline for complaints and the website is currently not operational. Do you have an estimate of when the work will be underway to have it repaired, if at all?
I wouldn't say, what I would say is I'll endeavor to provide the public with the correct information as to how they can contact immigration and make those particular complaints. I wouldn't say it's not operational. I'll provide those with the correct information as to how persons should make complaints.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Minister. Gareth Finnegan for the Royal Gazette. Gave us an awful lot of numbers there, Minister. One I'd like to pick up on is you mentioned that 173 new businesses were registered in the second quarter. Could you tell me how many of those are international businesses?
I don't have that breakdown in front of me right now, but I'll endeavor to provide you with that information.
Okay. But would you say it's fair to say that even though the economy is expanding, isn't that driven largely by international business rather than any other sector?
The international business represents the largest portion of our economy, so growth in international business will be weighted heavier than growth in other sectors. And so that has been our reality for decades and will continue to be our reality until we get greater levels of diversification.
So in terms of numbers, what proportion of the growth is fueled by international business?
So what I've provided for you today is GDP on a quarterly basis, which is not done by the value-added or production approach, which is done by industry. It is actually done by expenditure. And
right.
so it's broken up in household expenditure, government expenditure, business investment, and then our balance trade.
Okay. You mentioned one of the sectors is public administration, where employment's gone up on that, wages have gone up in that sector. Is that a good thing or a bad thing if government is just employing more and more people?
I think across the board, I've listed a number of sectors, which includes public administration, where employee compensation has increased. That's a positive factor for our economy. Anytime you have an economy and you see contractions in overall employee compensation, that's negative. And so when you look at it in relation to where we're moving as an economy, growth in employee remuneration is positive.
Okay, even if it's within the public sector?
Most definitely. The public sector has employees, and those employees have to operate in our society. We recognize that there is a higher cost of living, and so we want to ensure that those employees' purchasing power remains strong by giving those employees the uplifts that they deserve.
Is the actual number of those employed actually gone up? or is it a case of, because we don't know what the current population or working population of Bermuda is, do we? Because we haven't done a census in, getting on for 10 years, I think it is, 8, 9 years. So
no, that's
is it
incorrect.
a case of more jobs, or?
It is. We have general expansion of jobs within our economy. That's a fact. We have the annual employment survey, which measures the jobs does a census of the job landscape on an annual basis. And then we have labor force surveys that we put out. We do 2 labor force surveys. And last year, we're waiting for the tabulations of the labor force survey for May of this year as well. And so what I'll say to you is we do have measures of employment that we can rely on, which actually demonstrates and shows that there's general growth in the numbers of workers within our working population. Additional to that, we can rely on payroll tax information as kind of an informal measure of whether or not there is greater level of employees. I would say that the payroll tax data that I received in terms of payees into the payroll tax system increased by 2.3% and over 950 payees. But you can appreciate that one person can have multiple jobs, so I can't count that as an individual person, but it does show you where we're trending between comparing the second quarter of 2023 with the second quarter of 2022.
Okay, thank you. Just like to touch on the economic recovery program, because this is one thing that government launched 2.5 years ago now, March 2021. And it does seem it appears as though a lot of these initiatives still haven't taken off.
That's incorrect. I put out a ministerial statement where I articulated that 80% of the initiatives within the economic recovery plan are well underway. I also highlighted a number of completed initiatives, and I also highlighted some of the economic performance associated with those completed initiatives.
How many are actually completed? Do you know?
There are 26 initiatives within the economic development strategy which are either completed or ongoing. And some of the...
Right. So not completed then?
No, ongoing means you can have an initiative. For example, the Economic Investment Residential Certificate. That system is up and running, but the results of that system continue to take place. And so that's an ongoing initiative because it doesn't have a defined end period for that particular initiative.
Okay, how about... well, let me give you one example where people might get a little frustrated. We had the Northeast Hamilton Economic Empowerment Zone, which was introduced years back. And the idea to expand that to Southeast Hamilton was part of the March 2021 ERP. That was in the original March 21 ERP 2.5 years ago. And it's only just been brought to the House, in the last 2 months by yourself?
That's
why
great.
Why did that take so long? Because surely it could have been done with the stroke of a pen.
So let me say that. That's a completed initiative. And no, it cannot be done with a stroke of a pen. What we did is we had meaningful consultation with the businesses in that particular area. I first laid in front of Parliament tabled a report which indicated that there was a desire to expand into that particular area within the city of Hamilton. And then we went through the legislative process to ensure that the legislation supports our policy direction. And that is now a completed economic recovery plan item.
Okay. One final question, Minister. Still on the ERP. What's happening to the fish processing plant? That was 2.5 years ago. I understand that the BEDC looked into it and they filed a report to Cabinet in May. So that was 7 months ago. They've done all the research, all the feasibility studies and all the rest of it. And they submitted that research and that document to the Cabinet in May. 7 months later, and these are initiatives that were meant to sort of required urgent action to kickstart the economy, to pull it out of the pandemic recession, if you like. And it's 7 months, and is that still sitting on your desk, or has the Cabinet reviewed it? Have they come to any decisions on it?
Why do you talk about initiatives that I've already discussed in the public domain as being progressed.
Well, the last
And
time I asked
one
was
second,
it was still going to the cabinet.
1 second. It has progressed past public. I have made even the report that came from the BEDC, a document. We did indicate in our last meeting that has moved forward to the BUP committee as part of the Blue Ocean Prosperity Plan. And so they will be the responsible body now that undertakes the progression of initiatives within our blue economy.
And so how long do you think that process might take? When do you think construction of a plant may actually get underway, and when do you think it might be completed?
I don't have estimated timeframes on those. But you said something interesting. You said these initiatives was critical for pulling us out of the economic slump that we faced during the pandemic.
Sure.
And I'm here to tell you today that we're out of that economic slump, notwithstanding that initiative, and we have many initiatives that we have executed on that has put us in a position where we're now in a better economic position than the pandemic. And so the government continues to do work to advance the economy. The areas of focus that we're focused on, those areas that have been identified in the economic development strategy, and we will focus our resources in the next calendar year and fiscal year to execute on.
One final question, Minister. What tax rates or tax changes can we expect in February?
Certainly, I can't speak to that, but the Premier did put out a statement in terms of a pre-budget statement in the House of Assembly, and that is some of the considerations that is prepared to make those items that he has placed in front of the public and asking for the public to provide feedback. But we have had consultation with the business community, and they have made the submissions to the Minister of Finance, and it's for Finance and their team to determine along with the cabinet, what we believe is in the best interest of the country moving forward.
Isn't it getting a bit late in the day for that now? I mean, the budget should be sort of all put together by now, shouldn't it? Pretty much. You've only got 2 months.
We have a period of time in terms of when we table the budget to Parliament, and we are well within that particular time frame,
Sure.
and we will have a budget tabled next month.
Okay. Minister, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That is the final questions. Do you have any closing remarks you'd like to share with the public?
Most certainly. The economic performance that we discussed today in terms of the growth in our GDP is extremely positive. Our economy is expanding. Jobs are up. New business registration is up. The economy will continue to expand as long as we continue to create a business environment that allows companies and businesses to thrive. And that is what we're doing from a government standpoint, ensuring that there is a framework in place where businesses can actually succeed in Bermuda. And we see that coming into fruition with our positive economic results. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Minister, and thank you all for joining and watching this press conference, and have a great day and Merry Christmas.